All right, Joshua. I guess the big news coming out of tonight's show is Samoa Joe getting a rematch against Hangman Page at Full Gear, outlasting Bobby Lashley, who was like 2 or 3 singles wins this year. Hook, whose biggest win was against Max Caster in July, and 2 or 3 singles wins this year. I think 2 on TV and like 2 dark matches. Ricochet, who I think has a losing record and is mostly in tag team matches. Samoa Joe lost to Hangman, beat him up, gets rewarded with a so-called 1 in 4 chance to get a world title. I don't get it. I think Joe lost. He should move to the back of the line unless there's a good explanation. Hook has no business anywhere in among the 4 people. It just cheapens the world title and makes Tony Khan look like he's just drawing names out of a hat or doing things randomly. And I mean, booking wise, he did it because he, wanted to tell a story with these wrestlers in the ring. But that you have to have a position for this being the 4-way. I wrote about this and talked about it in a Wade Keller audio news bulletin earlier this week for VIP members. I think it's kind of ridiculous, but it's not. We're kind of used to it. I mean, there hasn't been a real history, Joshua, with things making sense in terms of rankings and who gets title shots. But I'm still going to advocate for some sort of explanation how these 4 got in this match.
I mean, that's fair. You can't really make a case for any of the 4, but they do have what I wouldn't even want to call this an out. This is actually a major other problem, is that, like, who is another viable challenger, really? It's a complete lack of challengers. Although I wasn't sure why they booked this match at all. They kind of tipped their hat that Joe would be getting another shot at Hangman when he attacked him at the last pay-per-view, and then Hangman addressed Joe directly on Collision, of all places. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the obvious match, so this match was unnecessary. All they had to do was say that, hey, Hangman wants another shot at Joe for what he did, and he's putting the title on the line to get it. I mean, it's pretty simple. This was an unnecessary match in a promotion that books only unnecessary matches, it seems like.
Yes. I mean, when we look at who would be better contenders, I mean, there are some key injuries. So, it's not a long list. But, I mean, if this were a sport, you would say maybe Okada and Darby deserve shots. Darby just beat Moxley, ex-world champ. The other 2 hold secondary titles. I know that's not how it books. But they're occupied with other things. Well, right. From a booking standpoint, it's inconvenient. But from a canon storyline, let's make sense of things standpoint, you should go, the people who are actually winning matches and holding secondary titles, they opted out of it. I don't know. The easy way out is what you said, and I'll just add this: Samoa Joe should have said, I want a rematch, and had some excuse for why he lost. Drew McIntyre special, and then Tony Khan sends word no through Tony Schiavone or whoever. You don't get it. You lost, and then Hangman comes out and goes, I want to defend against him. I respect him. He's making excuses. He thinks I can't beat him twice. I don't want to have Joe jump ahead of anybody else in line. Anybody who thinks they're jumping ahead in line, I'll defend against you at another time, but let's get him the ring. I mean, that's all. I'm not asking for perfection. I just want some sense that Tony Khan sees how ridiculous on the surface it is, how championship contenders are determined, and understand, which I think is true, that it makes sort of a mockery out of the whole process. It makes Tony Khan's leadership seem kind of weird, to put it nicely, and it makes the world title itself cheaper. And as I wrote and talked about on my VIP bulletin earlier this week, the world title is the one thing that can't get hurt, doesn't get too old, doesn't ask for more money, doesn't jump to WWE, doesn't get injured. You should protect that, and this cheapens it. And if the counter argument is, well, fans don't think that way anymore because they don't think it's real, it's like, well, then, why do people spend so much money on special effects for movies when they know it's not real? I mean, why do we have good actors instead of bad actors? Because it feels more real when people are good at their jobs, if they're acting. Why do we use whatever, I could go on. You get the point. So, yeah, I mean, I knew coming in I was going to be frustrated by that unless they provided an explanation. And I want to give a little sidebar before I throw to you, Joshua. I think saying Bobby Lashley's undefeated this year, and he's never had a world title match, that's fine. Undefeated, I think I calculated he's won 2 or 3 matches this year, singles matches, but it's true, he's undefeated. So, I don't know. I mean, they could have done more. I don't know. I mean, it's the price you pay too when you have so many pay-per-views and you don't adjust your booking to kind of have all these undercurrents of things going on that makes where you're going make more sense. Josh, what are your thoughts?
Right. And like they had the match with Joe, which seemed like a placeholder, because even that wasn't an exciting match the first time. You would have hoped that during that time they would have been building up another viable contender in the background on the undercard, doing something leaning towards the future, but they weren't. They were just playing on a Joe heel turn. And you can try to give them credit, but even like they tried to explain that Hook has a 90% win rate, but recently he hasn't done anything, and he's only ever lost in big matches. And then, I mean, and like you said, Joe just lost a big match, and Lashley hasn't won an important match in forever. Yeah, so I don't know what they were thinking. I think that honestly, you know exactly how Tony got here. He's like, oh, these four guys, this will be a good main event match, and I can use that to say this will be the number one contender because that's the match I want to do. Yeah, it's kind of just like lazy booking. I mean, he could have just had a battle royale and threw everybody in there. That's the other way to do it. That is eye rolling.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I mean, so I point made. It's out of my system. It is what it is. Adam Kidd in the chat goes, well, Tony Khan's bad at his job, Wade. I mean, yeah. So let's just shift to the other aspect of this that has people buzzing in the chat right now, which is the sort of, and it crossed my mind too, the Scooby-Doo, who is it under the mask gimmick, and like multiple levels. It was sort of amateur hour, let's just say, it's the execution of it, because it looked like a dry run through with no cameras or people watching, like Joe standing around going, okay, what are we waiting for now? There were awkward silence. People were late coming out. The mascots or characters were late coming out. It looked like a No Kings rally. And then you had Joe sort of going, to be safe, let's attack all these guys. And they're like 6 people in outfits and costumes. He unmasked the guy who last time was Hangman. And then he goes, good, case closed. The cleverness was, and there's this callback to Bischoff at the Billy and Chuck wedding. If you weren't paying close attention, you had Hangman, for people who didn't see, dressed as Shivani, who was dressed up for Halloween. So it looked like him, but he had a mask on. And he was mouthing words that Tony Schiavone pre-recorded, and Hangman knew what he said. Like, we have to believe that. Or Schiavone was, I don't know where Schiavone was at that point. It was pre-recorded, or he was saying it, and he was in cahoots with Hangman to be hiding so Joe wouldn't see him. So Schiavone's in on the con, unless maybe I'm missing something. I'm open to that. Just trying to work this out live here. And so Hangman is standing in the ring, acting like he's this Tony Schiavone. No harm, no fear. Joe's all confident now. He's drinking beers out of so-called beer bottles, or suspicious that it's poison. I don't know. It's AEW. Someone could be trying to kill him. And then Hangman reveals himself, sort of, as not, because he goes into his normal voice, and he attacks Shibata and Hobbs. Joe awkwardly doesn't turn around for several seconds during this time and just looks sort of bewildered and confused. I mean, they're like going around to President Trump, not quite sure where to go at a ceremony and have him be steered places. Like, Joe just looked like, I hear noises, but I'm not quite sure where I should look. It feels like that needed about 6 or 12 more run-throughs and better timing. And then also maybe someone in the room going, is it all worth it? I know it's the Halloween-themed episode. Could they have simplified it? Was it worth the effort, even if it was smooth? And it wasn't. Joshua, there's my recap. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that is an accurate recap. And the thing is, I think if you look at it on paper, like, it's not even a bad idea. It is remotely clever. It's a kind of a callback to, again, they had Hangman dressed as the Stay Puft Marshmallow a couple years back. And I like that Joe wasn't a dumb idiot and just fell for the same thing again. He expected it to happen. I think all that is good in theory, but it's exactly like you said. It looked like this was their first try at it. All the timing issues, and that it just dragged on forever. And you knew something was coming. And even though I was surprised when Hangman turned out to be Schiavone or vice versa, at that point, it had been dragged on so much. It was basically just like, where is Hangman at? What's he doing? Because, yeah, like you said, the timing really ruined it. Like I said, I think I could have enjoyed it if it was done really well and smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been a decent show closing angle, better than an obvious finished main event match that we otherwise had. But again, there was enough flaws that makes it more of a negative than a positive. Even though in the medicine, like I still enjoyed watching it. It was a long, drawn out segment that could have been 100 times better.
I'm not a purist. I'm okay if you want to do something kind of holiday themed, but I do believe if you're going to do it, make sure you can do it well, and make sure you don't have a requirement shouldn't be Joe has to look confused in a way that isn't natural, but is necessary for the cadence and the execution of this pre-planned angle. Like you really got to make it seem smooth. And it just wasn't there. I didn't even mention Joshua. Why are we having a contract signing right after a match ends? That's never happened. And why is Hangman not at the contract signing? When has that ever happened?
Right. Yeah. And why would 4 random people in costumes be coming out for a contract signing? That also never happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was, like I said, it was ill-conceived and poorly executed. But I still think it could have been good. It just wasn't. It
is. I think someone should come up with the term like half-assed. Has anyone ever called something like this that? Yeah. I mean, it was amateur hour. It was half-assed. It was overly clever without the ability to pull it off. I mean, sometimes we see like high spots in a match where there's this overly complex sequence and you're like, it just wasn't worth it because everyone's watching going, oh, you have to stand there and wait for this. It's like, and I know it doesn't bug doesn't bug people the way it does me because I think people are used to it or they just sort of bake it in. But I don't like people waiting outside the ring with their hands in the air looking at someone diving at them, and then we're supposed to act like that's the worst thing that could happen to them is getting landed on by a flying wrestler when all they had to do was what Joe does, which is step out of the way because they stood there and waited for it. I think that should disqualify most dives from being part of matches and that they should time them out. And I've seen people, there's one spot where Moxley was in my head a couple months ago that's in my head where he timed it perfectly, where he knew when the spot was about to happen and he was stumbling around, and then right at the last second he turned around and got hit, but he didn't even look until the last second. He looked surprised. I want that attention to detail. I'm sorry. I think, and I mean, I'm not perfect about like proofreading every article perfectly, but I don't have the budget of the TV deal that Tony Khan has to have a whole staff of people kind of running through things, filtering things through. But I think in pro wrestling, and WWE has this problem too, just clean stuff up. Break up pins. I have a streak going. I mention that every show. If you break up a pin, knock the guy off and make sure the guy lifts his shoulder up. Don't just hit the guy in the back. And we had a ton of that tonight too. I just want things cleaned up. It feels more immersive. It feels more believable. And then when you're trying to reenact things from the past, it does kind of feel like you're just kind of fantasy booking a fantasy promotion instead of just trying to make money. But like I said, I'm not a purist. I'm like you. If they had pulled this off really smooth, I think Hangman dressed as Shivani. I don't think everyone saw that until just a few seconds beforehand, and then it was fun to think, oh, Joe doesn't know because he thinks that's Shivani. So there's an idea there, well executed. Still would be a little divisive, but like you, I'd be on board and think it was kind of fun. I also asked to what ends. What did Hangman gain even for doing this other than the entertainment value? Hangman could have just come to the contract signing. And when he got the contract to sign, he could have just attacked Joe. So the only way that he gained an advantage is that Joe's guard was down so much that when there was all this ruckus behind him of his two partners getting attacked, he took 5 seconds to even know which direction to look to see what the ruckus was all about. I mean, there's just so many flaws in this.
It's one of those things that was designed more to swerve the audience than to make sense for the character, like the Seth Rollins fake injury, that kind of thing. Like, well, this will make good TV, but it doesn't make sense for the character necessarily. You're right. Hangman could have attacked Joe a million times. As far as I know, he could have attacked him in the middle of that match. It was a 4-way, so there's no rules, right?
I don't think they said that because they kind of acted like there were. But again, I don't think like Tony Khan in the earlier match, he goes, this match is so important. There's no interference. There's never interference allowed unless it's an ODQ match. Why? AEW does this thing where they declare this match is so important that Stokely Hathaway is not allowed at ringside because interference is not allowed. Interference is never allowed. That's why people try to get away with interference and not get caught because it's never allowed. So when you say Tony Khan is saying this match is so important, interference isn't allowed, what you really mean is he's going to create a barrier for people to interfere by not allowing them to stand at ringside. But they should say, but like in all matches, if someone does come to ringside and interfere, they'll get DQ'd. It's not a new thing that interference is banned. And I don't know how nobody thinks to say this. Oh, we're going to say no interference. It's never allowed. This isn't a new thing. All you did is say Stokely sit 4 feet further from being able to interfere. That's the only thing that happened here. And it's like, it's not that big of a deal, but it's revealing of the fact that there's this like really low IQ level editing of things that are illogical, and nobody either notices or thinks to speak up and go, or they think it doesn't matter because they're just looking down at their audience. They think their audience thinks, ooh, this match is going to be more exciting because unlike all the other matches where interference isn't allowed, in this match, interference is really not allowed. Like, just say if someone interferes in this match, they're suspended for a year. Okay. I mean, it seems like a bit much, but like at least there's something you're doing to separate it from all the other matches that you're acting are different than this one. All right.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, that was also in reference to another 4-way match. Not that you should have multiple 4-ways on a match on a show anyways. But again, there should have been no rules, and they were clarifying that, which again is still weird because they're saying nobody's allowed at ringside, but it's still a 4-way. So there's still no DQs as far as I know.
Yeah, and you're pointing out Ducky Duck. So interference is always allowed in multi-man tag team matches. So the point here is in this match, we're not allowing interference when normally, so I'll stand corrected on this one. Normally we allow indiscriminate interference. This gets to a whole other pet peeve of mine. But by the way, they've done it before. They say no interference, and it's just a match, and they act like it's something. But in this case, the idea is, well, normally we'd allow interference, even though a world title or tag team title is at stake, tag team title match. We would allow interference, but this one is special. We're not going. Why not just always make interference illegal, including in 3-way and 4-way matches with that stupid multi-person rule? But there was a point where I thought there was a point in the main event with Lashley where there was a thought that. I wish I'd have to look at my notes, but there was something where it looked like, oh, he'd get DQ'd if he got caught doing that or something. And I was like, wait, are we or counted out or something? It's like, oh, he had to do that behind the ref's back. I think, again, I think Daniel said something. I wish I could recall it right off. Danielson said something like, oh, he got away with that. I'm like, well, what if he didn't? Yeah. So anyway, Adam Kidd says, I love Wade. All right. I'm ranting. Let's see what else. Derek Mitchell goes, I agree with Wade. The last segment was very Scooby-Doo. Ruro. Oh yeah, Ruro. Yeah, I had to say it till I got the reference. Or I can't do the full thing. Fan Blast says, I just don't watch wrestling for cute skits and masks. I'd like to see a product that is a serious drama, just to see how it works out. Just try it one day. And I always refer to the press release they put up. We're going to be a sports league, and there's going to be rankings, and then we had the pre-show, and it was just librarians and nonsense. And then Tony Khan's like, I'm not doing that again. And we're not going to make this being the elite. We're not going to be all tongue-in-cheek ironic. We're going to try to do a sports league. And then, no, here we are. We're not, and they're not differentiating themselves. It's let's reenact all the things from ECW. I mean, this is your life Tony Khan type booking approach. It's everything Tony Khan liked growing up, and it's just now he's got a TV show to reenact it, sometimes more poorly, but with better athletes.
Right. I think that's probably the problem. Like, they're borrowing things that have been done that weren't necessarily good the first time, and oftentimes not doing them as well, which is disappointing. On the plus side, at least, like you just said, usually with better athletes. So at least the matches that come out are usually pretty good. But and ironically, that's really all they need to do is focus on those very good matches they can have and just put simple storylines around them. It's not as complicated as they're making it.
There's room for a little bit of levity, but that levity should be in a certain zone away from a match that determines who your champion is going to be or who's going to be the number one contender. Like, keep it up but and you don't even have to do that. I mean, I'd be fine with a company that didn't think, you know what, we're not happy being wrestling promoters. Let's be sketch comedy SNL writers. Like, wrestlers can't just be happy, and content, having credible matches that feel real and cutting promos that get across their personality and causes people to root for against them. Everybody just wants to be a comedian. Everybody wants to do sketch comedy. Like, why can't wrestlers just be wrestlers and they can go do improv off to the side, off our wrestling shows? And it's like, could we try that once? Let's see what happens. Tony Khan definitely likes really good athletic wrestling. And he also likes to relive by reenacting often, in a clumsy, derivative way things that he got a kick out of as a kid, growing up, and as a 20-something. So we know his proclivity is I like really good wrestling, but I also want to I want to be a fantasy reenactor of great moments in my childhood growing up, and I'm not sure that's a great formula. I mean, I would be super like I'd say humble's not the I'd be super deferential is the word I'm looking for. I'd be deferential to something that was working really well. I'd be like, okay, this isn't for me, and I think it could be better executed, but you know what? It's really working. But when the counter argument someone made in the crowd, I think it was Zach, oh, but the crowd popped for it, so it worked. Yeah, a crowd of like 2,900 people. You know, I mean, it's like with ratings and viewership that is dropping faster than other wrestling shows. I don't know. I mean, I would be differential if this was really, really working. But I'd also go, imagine how much better it would work, Joshua, if it was done well. And if they separated the comedy from the world title scene. So, yeah.
Right. Like if they did your, stand-up comedy wrestling idea, which I'm putting it out into the universe, somebody will probably try that at some point. If they did that and it was successful and it worked and they did that well, that would be one story. But this is a separate story where they're doing something like that, but not even committed to that. It seems like they're not even committed to any of it. Like they're kind of want to try this, they kind of want to try that, and like nothing, like they just don't put enough thought into any of it to really pull it off. Even if, like I even said about the main event segment, like I think it could have been good, but it wasn't because they just thought this is a good idea, let's throw it out there. Like, so even the things that I'm not sure I would like, they often don't do with conviction or consistently enough that to even know whether or not it would work.
It's okay to just be kind of bored and do a good job. Like an air traffic controller doesn't also need to like show I can keep airplanes from crashing into each other while juggling and while entering myself in a hot dog eating contest. Like, just do your job and keep planes from crashing into each other. Like, you can be a good wrestling promoter by just booking matches people want to see with compelling characters in a realistic setting with logical setup and a backstory where contenders earn their title shots, and stop just trying to be something else. That's been the one thing I'll give wrestling promoters, well, more than one thing, but one thing wrestling promoters were really good at prior to the Monday Night War era, really, I don't know, Vince McMahon, Saturday Night's Main Event in the mid-'80s did this too. They just wanted to be wrestling promoters. Like, and then Vince is like, let's do zany comedy. Let's have hillbillies dancing. But then you had like the whole 90s, it became so much more about, I don't know. It'd be nice to just see a Bill Watts type approach, Vern Gagne approach. Let's just, with a straight face, tell a really compelling story of this simulated fight league where we are in control of who wins and loses, so we can make sure the most charismatic, exciting people are on top, and we have liberties with the way we fight where no one's getting black eyes and getting injured, although you can do a moonsault to the floor and break your arm, or injure your arm. We could cut back on some of these moves that are excessive and at least cut the injury rate down and end up with a product that's equally as exciting by just choosing safer moves that are exciting. But so I would just like to see a promoter just be proud to be a pro wrestling promoter and not think pro wrestling promoting is defined based on whether you can make people laugh and do swerves and swerve people.
I hope everybody else can hear you. I cannot hear what you're saying. Yeah, I'm out. Audio. Weird. Okay. Yeah. Anything? I'm out. I don't know if you can hear me at all. I can't hear me or you.
Can you hear me yet?
Now I hear you. Okay.
Oh, you can. Okay. I just reset my whatever the box is called here. Something shorted out. When someone said you're muted, I didn't know if they meant me or you, so I just was chatting. Yeah. Now we're good. Oh, Zach Barber's theory is Tony Khan hacked Wade's setup. LOL. He finally got tired of the relentless AEW bashing. Zach, I know you're joking, but come on. Let's take them point by point. This top segment was worthy of bashing. Critique. What was I saying when suddenly I couldn't hear you, but it was my sound shorting out? I don't know. Maybe that's someone's way of saying let's move on. Let's pause and introduce the show. Oh, I know. No, let's. Nope. I want to answer Zach's super chat question because that's I think where I got cut off. So Zach said, "Wade, I've always wanted to ask this. How do you disqualify someone in a three-way match?" And I think the referee goes, "You're disqualified. Leave. You're eliminated. Now it's one-on-one." I mean, what? I don't get. Like, am I missing something? Why? It's just elimination style. You cheat. You're no longer in the match, and now it's one-on-one. But I mean, honestly, like Zach, what am I missing? This idea of you can have a three-way match with interference. You have to allow everything.
Gosh, am I frozen? Or no, Wade's just frozen? Okay, well, on the off chance that I'm not actually frozen, I'm going to continue arguing with Zach. So, yeah, if there's four people in a match and one of them gets disqualified, it's a three-way. Super easy, right? If there's three people in a match and one of them gets disqualified, it's a two-way. If there's two people in a match, one of them gets disqualified, the one remaining guy wins. Very simple. It's not complicated. And it's just a very logical way to move forward with that kind of situation. I don't know when they decided that multi-man matches needed to be no DQ, but they don't. And they just are because one time WWE said they are, and everybody just assumed that's canon and moved forward with it, which is not necessarily a good way to move forward with things. It'd be great if when AEW wanted to start a new show, if they would stop and think not necessarily how has this been done before, but how can we do it? And, do it their way. As well they should. Which I assume is exactly what Wade was saying before he froze and disappeared. And he's gone again. Right. I think everybody that's not Zach is in agreement with how a disqualification should work in a multi-man tag match.
Yeah, I'm back. My computer just something's going on and it shorted out and then it restarted, so I'm back now. Can you hear me fine?
I can hear you. As far as I can tell, I can see you. Everything looks good now.
Yeah, and I think my good mic is set up here. Okay, sorry about all that, everybody. Yeah, so I caught you saying, like Derek Mitchell says in the chat, when you cheat and get caught, you forfeit your opportunity to continue in the match. Zach goes, traditionally triple threats are one fall, not elimination style, but I see your point. That's always been my point. Every time someone brings it up, Zach, you said you always wanted to ask me. I've said that like multitudes of times because I think it's so ridiculous to allow anything goes if you add a third person to a match, rather than say if anyone cheats in a three-way match, you are out. It becomes a one-on-one match.
A DQ is not a fall. You just take that person out of the match. The match continues.
Yeah, it's not like you have to have two winners. I'm sorry. Maybe I am a super genius by realizing if one person gets eliminated, you don't have to.
All right. Assuming Wade's frozen again and I'm still not frozen. So that's how we do multi-man matches going forward. You cheat, you're eliminated. Easy peasy. All right. So I think we've covered the main event very in depth. One other thing I think we should probably bring up is the John Moxley storyline, which is one of the bigger storylines going on. You got, why in the world is John Moxley still fighting and struggling with Kyle O'Reilly, right? So this is a storyline they're telling. Maybe Moxley's lost his mojo, which is not even a bad storyline, but they're not doing a great job telling that. And nobody needs to see back-to-back Kyle O'Reilly, John Moxley matches going 15 minutes where John Moxley, former world champion, can't get over the hump with Kyle O'Reilly. And I like Kyle O'Reilly. I'm a Kyle O'Reilly fan, but he has not and is not at that level. And he's never been portrayed at that level in AEW. And I still don't know where they're going with that. Double count out, that's going to be a lame finish. That's a very WWE way to treat a match, just like Moxley purposely getting eliminated last week. All bad things. And I think we got Wade back.
Thanks for covering for me. If I crash again, I'll just switch to my laptop. Don't know what's going on. I tried to quit everything else, just about everything else I'm running here, to see if some software is causing issues. Although now I can't get to, maybe that is a problem. Let me do a force quit here on one software item that isn't responding, and we'll see if I can survive without more interruptions. All right. Okay. So I'll ignore that. All right. So let's pause and introduce this disaster of a show with the technology. My normally reliable Mac Studio giving me trouble. It's only crashed twice in all the years I've had it, and it was while I was live podcasting. Okay. So maybe it's, I don't know. I probably have too many tabs open, but.
Well, I'm on my phone because my computer wouldn't connect, so that's kind of
okay. Well, you're looking good, and you're not muted, I've been. So, anyway, so here we go. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Wednesday, October 29th, 2025. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, editor, publisher, and founder of the long-running Pro Wrestling Torch Weekly News.
All right. So I think he was saying this is the Pro Wrestling Torch podcast. He's the co-founder, editor, and so forth on the Pro Wrestling Torch website. Go VIP, everybody. It's on the old website. I don't remember the exact thing. I actually signed up through my podcast app originally, and then I don't know why I'm now on the podcast. But that's a great way to sign up if you're only interested in the audio. You can't catch all these shows. You want the next day is always good. I love the podcast. But the commercials are unbearable. I recommend going VIP to get no commercials because they're bad. Mine are in Spanish half the time or more. It's awful. So hopefully when Wade gets back, he'll finish introducing the show that I am babbling through now. We were talking about Moxley, who has not been great. Been dragging the company down. You put over Hangman, good. You put over Darby, good. But whatever they're doing now is, I know Zach in there said that they're showing that Moxley is he's shaken from his loss and he's questioning himself. He's really struggling. But I think the general consensus, and I'm not alone in this, that Moxley should have just straight up disappeared after he lost to Darby. Easy peasy. You're on to the next thing. Moxley's had a vacation coming for months. Hey, look, Wade's back. He's going to tell us what show we're watching right now.
We're listening to watching the Wade Keller. I got to put my mic in front of me. I rearrange everything on the fly here. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show, and I'm the editor of this newsletter, and I hold it up, and hopefully my laptop won't crash on me now. Here's the latest issue, hot off the presses, PWTorch.com/GoVIP, and we are talking AEW Dynamite tonight. I've put my laptop in front of me. I'm skipping my Mac Studio, which is malfunctioning, unfortunately. Fun little project for later in the week to see if I gotta whatever. Who knows? And it's good to have Joshua White with me today, talking AEW Dynamite. Sorry, Josh, you're put in a position to have to carry things when everything's going awry here. It sounds like you're doing a fine job keeping the conversation going.
Yeah, my fear of public speaking is really propelling me forward awkwardly. It's working out quite well.
Sounds good. All right. So if you're watching us live on the PWTorch Wade Keller YouTube channel, you're welcome to join in the chat. So just it's a fun conversation there. And we will we'll keep it on the chat as the show progresses here. I'm realizing that my trackpad is not connected to the laptop, so I'm trying to like do things. So I'm like, wait, I have to use my laptop trackpad because I'm at the same desk, but I'm surrounded by different moving parts here. So we'll see how I do when under times of duress when things are going wrong here, because normally everything actually goes smooth. So I'm thankful for that. So Joshua, tell people what you do for PWTorch and how they can read more from you.
Yeah, so mostly I cover the B show for AEW Collision. Nobody watches it, and if you don't watch it, you may want to read my report because occasionally something almost irrelevant happens on there, and it's worth reading about. And if you want to read blow by blow by blow by blow how a match went, I got that too because I don't know why, but I want all the moves on there. They do all the moves, so I put all the moves. It seems fair. So I mostly do that, and I occasionally get roped into the real show here on Dynamite, and that's fun change of pace for me because there's stuff to talk about instead of just saying, "Yeah, it was a good match."
There was
Collision discussion.
When Collision was launched. We were like, we should maybe I'll just do a Saturday post show after Collision every week, because they're gonna have like a kind of semi-exclusive rosters of the top guys. So it's like, well, if I'm gonna cover CM Punk, I gotta cover Collision. And we did a couple, but it's scheduling wise, it's tough. I don't have many evenings to do anything, socially in my life with the way everything works out in my schedule. It gives me some flexibility in the afternoons, which is nicer. I mean, there's a trade-off, but even those are usually quite busy. So, it'd be nice if Collision was relevant enough where it felt like an egregious, not oversight, but like an egregious decision not to do a live post show. But yeah, I don't know that most weeks there'd be enough developments and content to do a full post show on it like we do at Dynamite. So yeah, I think it has to be fun, Joshua, to be talk AEW but have a TV show usually packed with quite a few talking points.
Yeah, I mean, if you put like me and Brian on for a Collision post show, it'd just be like, yeah, this was a good match. That was a good match. Oh, that other match, that was also a good match. Yeah. Oh, there's a promo. It advanced the storyline like a quarter of an inch. That'd be great. Although this last week they did have a Hangman promo to open the show, which was a special treat for guys like me. And they actually showed it on Dynamite, which was extra bonus. They almost never do that. So yeah, that was a great development for Collision.
If you just never get the sense they're actually serious about, you should watch Collision because I don't know. I mean, every once in a while they do, and then they just kind of lose interest again. And it could be a strategy. Just we need Dynamite to be the A show. Saturday, we have all kinds of excuses not to draw, but we don't have as many on Wednesdays. Although it's tougher now with so many NBA games now on every night of the week. All the wrestling shows are facing increased competition and split audience. Anyway, you're welcome to be a video caller on the show also, and besides being in the chat, you can find the link to that in my report on Dynamite at PWTorch on the website, and you can also email us, Wade Keller Podcast at gmail.com, Wade Keller Podcast at gmail.com. We also have Wade Keller Post Show at gmail.com because I figure since we have two podcasts, we should have a email that matches both. So if you email to that works too. It's just forwards. So either way works. And I would love to hear from you and in whatever format works for you. Joshua, you want to add anything? I thought you were signaling.
No, I was just scratching my hand because I'm allergic to my dogs, but I still carry them.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, it's not wonderful you're allergic, but it's great that it's worth it. I understand that. Very much understand. I would put up with being allergic to my dogs and still keep them over the years. Okay, let's. I'm still kind of gathering myself here. Just a whole rhythm's thrown off. But let's move on and let's go to callers and see what they want to talk about. We talked about some issues with the main closing segment. We could go on. I don't know that we need to. The chat had some fun with it. Let's bring Adam Kidd into the show as a caller. We got Rude Dog on hold. Rude Dog, you signal to us if you're fine waiting because we don't want to keep you up too late also. I think I saw him raise there it is. There's a thumb. All right. Hey, Adam, good to see you. Was it you? I think all the problems started when you called in.
Yeah, I think it was my fault. All my fault. How are you guys tonight?
Good to see you. Good to talk to you.
Yeah,
a chat
my
regular.
first time calling in, yeah. Josh, long time no talk, buddy.
Yeah, it's been hours.
Yeah, hours. Yeah, I thought it was just the show tonight. I wasn't that impressed.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, Zach, I got your old boy for you. Um, um, the thing that I wanted to talk about was during that last segment, I did not like the bottle shot to Joe's head. It didn't look like the bottle broke. He's a guy with a history of concussion issues. I mean, it cost him when he was in WWE, when he was doing the commercial shoot. He was out for a long time, almost ended his career. What is the infatuation with AEW with unprotected headshots on performers? It happens all the time. It bugs me. I mean, it's not 1995 anymore. Um, if we're not learning from what we've seen from all these guys that don't have a good quality of life now later in life, but we keep making the same mistakes over and over again. That's one of my biggest pet peeves with Tony. He's not a boss. He's not a leader. Um, I said it in the chat earlier. He needs to start just writing checks and quit writing wrestling. Let somebody else run the show. It bugs me. If you really care about wrestling, then you need to care about these performers' health. Like you said, yeah, you can break an arm, get hurt diving out of the ring. That's part of the job. But things like that are totally avoidable. And I mean, it busted him open. I just hope he's okay and it doesn't cost us the main event of Full Gear.
Yeah, so I did not see the shot tag, so I was typing my report, and so I and unfortunately my DVR with DirecTV tapes records the overrun, but only for like 3 minutes. So I always have to be watching live afterwards, and then it's harder to replay it until they load up the replay. So logistically, I can't go back and watch what I missed. So Joshua, did you notice, and do you want to describe what you saw too, in addition to what Adam just said?
Yeah, no. So I apparently didn't see it very well either. And I think Derek may have said this in the chat also. I thought maybe that Paige had hit Joe with the microphone. Don't get me wrong, aggressively hard, and he was definitely bleeding from the head afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But I was under the impression that I must have looked away because I didn't see anybody get a bottle broken over their head necessarily. Although I know there were definitely bottles in the ring. I thought maybe Shibata got hit by one. I didn't actually catch that whole exchange.
So yeah, Adam, were you sure it was a beer bottle? I hate to litigate this live on air. If I could get,
I thought it was. I thought it was. If I was wrong, I'll openly admit I'm wrong. Unlike Zach, who never says he's wrong. But
he did once earlier in the show.
Yeah,
I don't know if wrong is a word.
Mistaken.
He conceded a point. He
does. Yeah. He'll do that every once in a while.
Yeah.
That I had to get that off my chest. That bugs me.
I'll say generally, because I got sidetracked, Adam, talking about whether I saw it or not and what it was. I had an issue going way back, and I think I expressed it to Tony directly when it happened. The chair shots to the head, that's just something the wrestling industry had sort of, it seemed, agreed on a large scale with not to do that. And there was a whole thing. Did Tony Khan miss out on all the stuff that was going on that caused the industry, WWE, to lead the way and go, yeah, we're going to do chair shots to the back. We'll do it to the knee. We'll jab you in the gut, but we're not even going to swing. And I know there's wrestlers. Oh, we know how to protect ourselves and make it look bad. And it's overrated. And backyard wrestling with kids isn't the epidemic it once was, where everyone was copying everybody. I don't know what happened to that, if it'll ever come back. But there are all kinds of things that happen. But it was sort of like, it's my philosophy. Like, there's so many things wrestlers are willing to do to themselves when they're young and feel invulnerable or trying to prove themselves or pay their dues like their predecessors did. And there just comes a point where you kind of want to outgrow it. Like, hockey players eventually agreed to wear helmets. Some aged out, got grandfathered in without them. I got to see some of that when I was a fan. Willie Plett and Al Secord and the North Stars Blackhawks games. They wouldn't wear their helmet because they were the fighters and they were rarely in there when anyone else could shoot the puck hard. But it's still dangerous. But eventually we just go, yeah, there's things we should do for safety, even if in the NHL is a big sacrifice because you didn't get to know the players as well because they all are sort of interchangeable unless you really squint. You can't see their hairstyle and their face as much. It hurt the NHL's marketing for safety. The thing about wrestling is, Joshua, AEW doesn't lose one fan or one viewer or one pay-per-view buy. Oh, puppy making a cameo there. Sweet.
It's Roscoe.
It's the dog episode. Love it. AEW doesn't lose one viewer, one pay-per-view buy, or sell one less ticket if instead of hitting people in the head with chairs and perhaps, other things, even some of the high spots that are dazzling. But some of them are just more dangerous than others. Some spots are more convoluted than is entertaining or worth doing. And I just think refining the system is fine. I mean, I don't want to say everyone should wrestle like Roman Reigns, because I don't want to watch pro wrestling if everybody wrestles like Roman Reigns. I'll be blunt about that. I don't just like his matches, but I really would. I mean, I don't want everyone to wrestle with his minimal style. But the point is illustratively, if you're over and you're telling a compelling story and you know what to do between moves, and your character's over and you have this dynamic with your opponent and the stakes are high and the title means something, you really can dial it down. You don't have to, Zach, I'm preemptively telling you, I don't want all matches to be boring. So don't give me this false argument that the straw man argument, counter argument. But there is something you said for just like, if we did half as many dangerous spots, there would be half as many injuries. And we don't need to do chair shots to the head either. Joshua, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm 100% mad on that. Like the chair shots to the head, there's two problems with it. One is maybe it's safe, maybe it's not. But even if you trust the performers to try to do it safe, do you trust AEW to do it in the safest possible environment when they can't get the timing on the show closing angle correct? Do you trust them to get the fake beer bottle or the shaved down chair correct? I don't. I think they'll accidentally kill somebody if they start leaning into that kind of thing. Two, with a chair shot like that, those kinds of headshots, they don't even add anything to the match. For most people, longtime wrestling fans, it takes us out of the match immediately because we're like, oh, they should not be doing that. That's horrible.
Yep.
So whatever impact they think it has, it doesn't have, and it has the opposite effect.
Really good point. Yep, well put. That's it. Yeah, when you're doing something that people feel like, yeah, I mean, do I need to use an analogy? I mean, you don't want to watch. Whether it's racing where there's deaths or Cirque du Soleil where sometimes something goes wrong, like you don't want unnecessary risks taken. There's an edge to everything in wrestling. And I understand, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be risk and there are going to be injuries. The idea is don't simulate something that can cause a concussion, even if you are trying to tell us it doesn't really hurt, because you can't really advertise that. I mean, you can I think Raven was pushing back, like, oh no, we know how to get our hands up, and it's overrated, and other moves are worse. And I honestly, I mean, flat back bumps might have been worse. Nick Bockwinkel, had mental issues late in life, and it might have been all those amazing flat back bumper, but his head, his brain bouncing around in his skull, and those flatbacks might have contributed to it. I don't know if that was ever determined or looked into. So I'm not saying wrestling it has to be safe, but there is something easily imitated that just looks like it is going to cause concussions, and someone who's had a lot of concussions, you don't want something to slip up because that could be the end of their career. It could set them back in living an enjoyable life. Just stay away from that. I mean, we'll still watch. Everyone will promise to still watch. There's not a single person out there who loves pro wrestling who's going to say, you know what, if I don't get chair shots to the head, I'm going to stop watching. There's so many other ways to make the shows compelling. And when Tony allowed that, it just felt like, was he not paying attention to the last 10 years or 15 years where everyone kind of decided that was, for the reasons you said, Joshua, ill-advised, counterproductive, and kind of hack?
Yeah. Go watch Mick Foley do his live stand-up show and tell me the chair shot. I can't go back, and that was anybody that can watch the I Quit match from Royal Rumble, was it 99 or 2000, when he had his hands handcuffed behind his back and took all those chairs. I never want to see anything like that ever again on my screen. And it, obviously that's an exaggeration. We're not doing that in wrestling now, but any of it just isn't worth it. But I'll get off that subject.
I was critical of it at the time it happened. This is not some 2020 hindsight thing. I really, really, really spoke out against this in the newsletter, pre-internet, and then when we launched the website. It was just like the Torch, as our approach to this, has not been to just in wrestlers we trust or in promoters we trust. We tried to talk some sanity into this from a very early point, and Mick knows that was wrong, but at the time you get wrapped up in sacrificing, and I don't know. Anyway, go ahead, Adam. I know you wanted to change topics.
Yeah. For the most part, the rest of the show was it was a standard Dynamite. I thought the Bucks match was a standard Bucks match, which is a good tag match with a lot of high spots, a lot of unnecessary kickouts. I'm trying to think of anything that really like blew me away, like that was great. It just all kind of ran together to me, but yeah, that was all I wanted to call in about that last segment.
No, I'm glad you did.
I've been wanting to call in for a while. I finally figured out how to get to the link on the website, and I plan on calling in more often.
Awesome.
And I know Zach always gives me flack. I'm in a Discord with him and Josh.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, he thinks that I hate AEW. I don't hate AEW. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't watch it.
Zach hates AEW because he's an apologist who has for years advocated for them to keep doing things that are costing them viewers. So if anyone hates them, it's the person who apologizes for every bad thing that they obviously shouldn't be doing and is part of the support group that enables Tony Khan to keep making the same mistakes.
I brought it up in our Discord earlier, and this was what I said, and Josh thought it was a pretty good point. I said, look at their crowd, and you look at the product they put on. The reason their attendance is lacking is they're not getting families because and I'm not saying you need to have silly, goofy, family, kid-like stuff, but if you just pull back on the TV, some of the ultra-violent stuff made things a little more colorful, family-friendly. You have people coming to the shows, and you look, it's all people that look like me, Josh, and you, Wade. Very few. I've seen like 6 kids.
Yep.
Because they're not bringing families. If you have a family that's bringing mom, dad, 2 brothers, a sister, now that crowd of 3,000 might be 6,000 or 7,000. Then if the product really gets hot, now you get to 10,000, and now your audience on television goes up, and it's only going to help your business. I'm not saying that for the big blow off stuff you need to do an I Quit match and go that extra mile on a pay-per-view. I get it. It's a blow. But to do it week after week, I don't need to see blood on every single episode of Dynamite. I just don't.
No, all good points. I think AEW could be very successful at a higher level than they are and completely disregard ever doing anything to attract families and kids. That said, because I don't think there's one way to have bigger crowds. Well, let's have family-friendly content across the board, except on pay-per-view and main events. That is an approach they could take, and Adam, everything you said would happen. But I want to point out, you could just do a better job for a product that is absolutely not meant for kids and draw 6 and 8 and 9 and 11,000 people by being a true contrast to what WWE does. True across-the-board contrast. And I know, Matt and Nick like doing the ironic being the elite stuff and, we're broke and let's do a little sketch comedy that clearly isn't, no one believes he's really blowing his money at the casino. It's like, but it's funny, it's fun, and we're going to ham it up. That's their approach. You can do that, but then if you do that, I think you should also do it in a way where you have other things on the show that attract families and you cut back on stuff that turns them off. Or don't do that at all, including what the Bucks sort of want to do. Let that be on being the elite or something. But then, just do a better job of being a true alternative to the WWE. And they're kind of in this middle zone of we want to be all things to all people, but we're also not going to execute any of it all that well, except, boy, do we have the most 5-star matches. And it's where's that getting you? And we bring in the most international names that people have no emotional attachment to except for 4% or 12% watching. But, boy, we honor the whole world of wrestling, and that makes Excalibur happy. It's like, I'm not against that, but they could do a much better job introducing those wrestlers, making them accessible, getting people to care about them. Olympia had a vignette. It was nice, but I had no emotional reaction to it. I'm not rooting for her, against her. She just, said a couple cliches. She looks muscular, but it doesn't seem to cross AEW's mind that the goal isn't to show somebody in a cool outfit, talking generically about where they're from and looking like they're muscular or whatever. The end goal of any promo is to elicit an emotion from the people who are the target audience. And it doesn't. It's like it generally doesn't think. It doesn't seem like that has crossed the mind of Tony Khan that the goal of wrestling, when you introduce a character, is to get an emotional reaction to make people want to see them and root for or against them. And he doesn't. It's like that doesn't happen. You know, I mean, there's Tekla's promo didn't make me think Chris Statlander, and that's a whole other thing. I don't have to think of her. I think she might be an alien because that looked like an alien pretending to be a human. Today.
So unnatural.
Oh, yeah. All right. Couple things. One, let's see. I'm on the wrong. I gotta move this trackpad so I stop touching it because it's not plugged in. I'm just gonna throw it off to the side here and touch my laptop here. Derek Mitchell says it's good to see Adam on video. Mike Good says enjoy Adam taking shots at Zach in chat, but even more enjoyable on video. So that's fun. We had a beer bottle debate, and I would like to say it was solved in the chat. It's always good to see when we can agree. Darrell Freeman, excuse me, says yes, he got hit in the head with a beer bottle. And Pickens CJ says it was a beer bottle. I thought they would use a stunt bottle. And let's see. And Zach says, yeah, Adam's 100% correct. It was a beer bottle. It didn't break because he hit him with the bottom of it. But and then Derek Mitchell said, I'm rewatching it, and he hit Joe with the top of a microphone, not a beer bottle. Oh, no.
So did we actually solve it?
No, I was being sarcastic. We didn't.
Okay.
I mean, I think we did because it's like 3-1 from the posts I've seen. So, Derek, I think you need to rewatch it again. And are you going to hold your ground here, or are you going to agree with everybody else who's quite sure?
Derek's a good man.
He is.
And
He's
so
the only one that said he rewatched.
he's pretty
it about
observant.
going on their memory.
Yeah, I have it on DVR. I'm gonna recheck it out, and if I was wrong, my apologies.
Everybody everybody but Derek thinks you're right. So I'm going with that. I wish DirecTV after 6 damn years would extend the auto extension to the actual length of the overrun instead of cutting it off 2 minutes before the show ends every week on DVR. I mean, it's not available on demand, but you got to wait hours for that. So
right.
And I could record the show after it, the prank show. But if it's a rerun, then it won't record because it only records first. I don't know. Anyway.
They could just get rid of the overrun too at the time.
Oh, that'd be nice.
I mean, they dragged that last thing 5 minutes longer than it needed to be. So.
Oh, yes, exactly.
That's an option.
Yep. Oh, and someone said you in the chat earlier said, Adam, you sound like Kevin Nash, and I totally disagree. You absolutely sound like Brock Lesnar. Do you know that?
No, nobody's ever told me I sound like Brock Lesnar.
That was Brock Lesnar right there.
Except when he said Brock Lesnar, I heard it.
I hear it you are. I am standing by that. Chat, come on, help me out here. Adam, kids, Adam, do you sound like Brock Lesnar? No,
I don't know. Do I sound like Brock Lesnar? Nobody's ever told me I sound like Brock Lesnar.
You could impersonate him on the phone, and I would totally think he was calling me to chew me out for something I said. That's how convincing it is.
I think I'm a much nicer guy than Brock Lesnar. But
I'm not
near. And I'm a big dude, but I ain't Brock size big.
Yep. All right, so Hermes AJ1, I'm not sure, says definitely Lesnar. In the chat, Derek Mitchell says you sound just like Brock Lesnar. Hermes said, yeah, it's a Midwestern accent. Zach says, why did you insult Adam by comparing him to that creep? I didn't compare him to him. I said he sounds like him. A lot of people sound alike who are not exactly the same person in terms of their traits. But he goes, sadly, you're right, though. Why are you insulting him like that? Zach, why are you comparing him to a creep?
Zach, I'm gonna get in the airplane. I'm gonna come down. I'm coming to Texas.
Yes. All right. It's been an adventure. Adam, please do call again. Would love to.
I will. Thank you so much for having me, Josh. Keep up the good work. You too, Wade. I love everything. Everybody go VIP.
Thanks. And I'm gonna actually have you endorse my podcast on a commercial. And we won't say it's Brock Lesnar because we won't get in trouble, but people will think it's Brock endorsing our show.
I'll do it. You just let me know when to do it. I'll do it.
Oh, my God. You sound so much like him. All right. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
All right. Take care. All right. Let's bring Rude Dog onto the show. Rude Dog, thanks for your patience. Thanks for waiting. What's up?
Hi.
Hello.
Good to talk to you, Wade. Good to talk to you, Joshua, for the first time. And
9 Inch Nails. Good.
This has been a really weird podcast and like a weird show, so I'm just trying to wrap it all in. But I will say I've been to a Collision as a correspondent for Wade before a long time ago in Seattle at the Climate Pledge Arena. I think that only lasted like 3 Saturdays or so or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean, even back then, I mean that was a bit ago, and it was you watch an hour of dark matches, and then you see 2 hours of Collision, and then there's 2 hours of Ring of Honor after that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to Wade. It was by like the Kraken's like general manager's office or whatever. And then I came back and Ring of Honor still going on. I was like, no one wants to see this. Like, this is crazy. But anyways, so yeah.
There are more negatives that have come out of Ring of Honor than positives based on the way that it's existed under Tony Khan's banner of ownership or whatever. And one of them is just driving people away from wanting to go to shows because suddenly there's this brand, this weird ghost brand that, you know, now we're getting a title match on Collision, and it's like it's never been properly introduced to the proper Dynamite audience. What is it? What does it stand for? How do we get it? I mean, Tony just thinks, well, if people could look it up if they want. I mean, they plug every few months they plug a pay-per-view, but like there's no in canon of AEW an explanation for why it's this other brand that exists and why it's mostly AEW wrestlers, sometimes who are on both shows, sometimes not. Sometimes they carry the belts onto their shows, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's defended on TV, but not. I don't know how often it's ever been on pay-per-views. It's been brought out to the ring. Has there been a ROH proper title match on an AEW pay-per-view? Do you know right off? I know they do it on TV, but it's not even that important. But it's like there's no definition of what it is, why it exists, or anything, and that it bugs me. I try not to let it bug me too much because, you know, some things that bug me don't matter that much. But it just seems like there should be an explanation for it, and it just when you go to a live event and suddenly you're after the peak moment of the main event of AEW with other main eventers, you start watching 2 hours of in a building that's now half as full as it was, with ROH banners on the ring and wrestlers and storylines you're not following. I mean, it's weird. It's not satisfying. It's like watching an hour and a half of credits after a really good movie, and you're like, should I stay or should I go? Anyway, so
right, like if you go to a concert and the headliner goes on, and then some opening band you never heard on goes on afterwards. Well, yeah, no, everybody walks out and it's empty and bad.
Yeah, and if you walk out, you're like, but am I missing something? Like you want to have a sense of like, all right, that was a peak moment. Now we got it. Now we're leaving. And I mean, there's other ways to go about it. It's not perfect. I mean, I get it's a challenge, but he could just always tape 1 hour of Ring of Honor before Dynamite, always tape 1 hour before Collision, have it be the warm-up matches, start the shows early. And then after Dynamite goes off the air, I've been an advocate all along. They should have been doing dark matches with their top stars. They got paid a lot of money. Tony should have insisted more often than not, even if they didn't have a match or promo on TV, that there would be a match that they could advertise that would be exclusive for people live in the building. WWF did this for years after their squash match tapings. They'd advertise 2 or 3 matches with big names, reward people for going. They see something they couldn't see at home. It helps sell tickets. And then you're guaranteed to see some top stars, because when you buy AEW tickets, people have figured out over 6 years, I might not see my favorite. It's like a 50-50 chance you see your favorite. There's no rhyme or reason to when you see top stars. And if they solidly advertise dark matches with top stars, I think it would help them. But, you know, these are mistakes that have been happening for six plus years. So they're paying a price that's going to be hard to recover from it. But Ring of Honor is part of that problem. Anyway, go ahead, Bruno.
Well, yeah. I mean, so I'm gonna move on from that, but like, I mean, you talked a lot about the last segment, but I'm gonna just put in my 2 cents. Like, it felt like a segment like from WCW from like 1995. Like, I was waiting for the Dungeon of Doom to come out. Like, it was just like really bad, and like not like, I don't understand how you can like even like say this could be good on any level.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing, like, I live in New Jersey, and Newark's not too far from me, but like, I'm like I don't even know if I want to go to this Full Gear show. Like, I mean, and this is the first time where like pay-per-view has been like close to me where I can just go and like, yeah, of course I'm gonna go. But it's just like that segment, and like I just like, what do you think about like Samoa Joe and Hangman again? Like, I mean, that's really not.
That's a whole other, yeah.
In.
Seriously, like we're so distracted by mascot outfits and you know, my whole thing of like to what ends. To what ends there's two questions that I think Booker should ask themselves. What's the presupposition, and to what ends are wrestlers? To what ends are motivating these wrestlers? Like, so one, the presupposition: why is there a contract signing when there never is after this match? Why are their mascots coming out? Like, explain it a little bit more. Like, just go. We just think it'd be funny. Like, it makes no sense you're having a contract signing when they're just hanging out in the background. But like, why are they part of this? It feels a little too important to have cartoon figures and whatever. And then why isn't Hangman there? So you don't have the presupposition to explain why it's happening. And then Hangman, you have to go, to what ends did he plot this out with Tony Schiavone ahead of time? When he could have just shown up at the contract signing and then attacked Joe. And why is he attacking Joe? He gets him in the ring. He's got a match with him. Like, and so many of these explanations are, well, because fans like to see fights and we want to build up a fight. Well, right, but you have to put it through the filter of, can we have it make sense because people are acting in a logical fashion? And there are ways, I'll say always, not almost, I won't even qualify it. There's always a way to make things make more sense than the first idea that comes to mind. That's sort of a first draft and half-assed. And Zach goes, well, Hangman attacked him because Joe blindsided him. So Hangman can blindside Joe. Like, I mean, there's a contract sign. I mean, or Hangman can be a bigger man than Joe and not blindside him and beat him in the ring when the bell rings at Full Gear. Like, this was a elaborate ruse that clearly was done to be, quote, entertaining and funny and clever. It didn't really serve a purpose if this were sort of real life. And I just think you lose something when your booking filter doesn't strive to have things make sense and have a reason for happening. If it was a little more real, and then it just does become, you know, amateur hour sketch comedy. And maybe some people want to watch it, but I don't think as many. Joshua, anything to add?
No. We litigated the bad downside of that segment repeatedly.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, nothing new to add.
Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to.
It was bad. It could have been better, and it wasn't.
Yep. Okay. Go ahead, Rudog. What else?
All right, I'll go something different now. So I don't care if it's Hook's choice for his new current music, but it's terrible. And it's ill-fitting, and AEW dropped the ball on him a long time ago when he was hot, and now he just seems like a hot mess. Like, is there any way to rescue Hook?
Hook was so over a few years ago, 4 years ago. And it's just like, it's a dead crowd now. And it should kind of clue them in something isn't going right here. And it's just, as Zach Barber says, it's a good song. It's not a wrestling theme. And can Hook be, you know what? I thought it was maybe Hook's best promo to date, Rude Dog. Like earlier in the show, he's rolling his bags into the building, and he talked a little bit more normally. It was a little less affected in his delivery. He looked into the camera and he said something kind of in a straightforward, right to the point way. I was like, just more of that. Hook was kind of like Sting in the rafters. Like, Sting is most over when he's not talking and he's not wrestling and he's just looking cool. And it sounds like a dig at Sting, and to a degree it is, because he didn't succeed at the level that wrestling rewrites history. He had a lot of guaranteed contracts, and he didn't draw money at the way that people who are put in his category did. Except when he didn't talk, and apparently he was going through a lot of personal stuff, but boy, did he look cool sitting in the rafters, looking down at a whole thing and swinging a baseball bat around. He was protected and looked cool. Hook, when he was most over, same thing. His arms were crossed, and he's just standing around looking cool and sort of distant, disengaged in a way that I couldn't be bothered, and it worked for him. But a lot of things went wrong, including an evaluation. I think rightfully so. He wasn't ready to wrestle at a level that matched how over he was. And so in that sense, it was sort of unfortunate. I don't know what the answer is, but I sure liked Hook and Joe as a tag team. I thought that was an answer. It fills in some of Joe's weaknesses, or Hook's weaknesses as a worker, and it allowed them to kind of have a odd couple tag team. And now it's not there anymore. Joshua, what do you think?
Yeah, you're right. Hook was super over, and he was just never met that in the ring. And then he also like never improved. In fact, even in this match tonight, it was same stuff, like kind of bad looking punches and suplexes, and that's it. That's all he's got. It's all he's learned. It's all he does. And I thought him with Joe would at least help him. Actually, it should help him in the ring also, but would help him personality wise. It didn't, because it was cut out immediately. But he's also hanging out with Eddie Kingston now, which should also help him, at least in the charisma section, but isn't. They're just not really doing anything with that pair either.
You get the sense Tony's not 100% sure he wants to push Eddie Kingston anymore. Like, I mean, it's just, I don't have inside information on that, but like, if he trusts Eddie Kingston right now and thinks he can rely on him and he's going to be a reliable employee and not cause issues and everything, he should be doing a better job reintroducing him, because he was really over too. But the way that they're presenting Eddie Kingston, it's like, oh, I don't know. I mean, we kind of got to use him, but we don't want to put too much on him, because that's how it comes across to me. And so if that's not the real life issue, they should try to get more out of him. I know he's a little redundant with Mark Briscoe in kind of that slot on the roster, and Mark kind of took it over, but there's still something to be done there. And yeah, they're not getting the most out of that pairing right now, Joshua.
Yeah, they're not getting anything out of that pairing
except
for a short bad match with like no character development, which is the opposite of what they need.
Yep. A couple comments in the chat along these lines. Well, first, Zach said about Hangman. Hangman's always been a hothead, Wade. He's going to get his lick back. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's inconsistent, but boy, that was very elaborate to try to just be able to hit someone a couple times. Derek Mitchell says, AEW dropped the ball on hot wrestlers like Wardlow, Hook, the Acclaimed, Private Party, and the Outrunners. What are they afraid of? We could do an hour on all the, we could do an hour talking about which ones were the fault of AEW and which ones were just, once they got a little bit of a push, they were exposed as either being injury prone or a one-note joke, or, in the Acclaimed, they just got too infatuated with Billy Gunn and merch money and lost sight of, what's really important. And maybe they just, I don't know. So I don't want to go down that right now, but there's something to all of that. Fanblast says, I thought they dropped the ball on Hook too back then, but what else could they do? They couldn't push him to the moon because he was green. I guess they could have just given him the Goldberg treatment. He wasn't Goldberg either, though. He's a cool, undersized dude, and like shiny shorts and without a ton of muscles and not particularly tall, who's just whatever. So I don't think what they did was the right thing, but I don't think there's an obvious other path. Joshua, do you think what would you have done differently to take better advantage of Hook that isn't in La La Land, where he's an actual good worker and good promo?
Yeah, no, I think sticking him in a tag team with a veteran who is a good worker and has a personality was the right move. They just didn't actually do anything with it or stick with it long enough to see if that worked. Yeah. But yeah, the Goldberg treatment obviously wouldn't have worked. He's a young kid and not like ripped or big or anything like that. But again, a couple things may have worked, but I know for sure what they did do did not work.
Hook has a physique. Shirtless on a beach in LA, he's going to get people looking at him going, that guy goes to the gym. He's got some muscles. He's in great shape. In a wrestling scenario, he's a little maybe slightly more muscular than current Danny Garcia, more than Adam Cole. But it's just, he doesn't, if you don't have something else going for you to make up for the fact that you're not really tall and you're not like thickly muscular, if you're not Bryan Danielson in the ring, or Nigel McGuinness, you got to have something. And he was cool until he started doing more. And I'm sympathetic to them. Pickens in the chat goes, Jungle Hook was fun too. That's the thing. He's done all these things. Adam Kidd says Wardlow is a big what if. Zach says Wardlow keeps getting hurt. I'd take him off that list as a fail. Yeah, I'm not convinced Wardlow was underutilized. I think he was people had an idea that he might be something, and I don't want to be like too blunt, but if your priority is packing on the most muscle possible, your body's going to give out when you do feats of strength, because your ligaments, your tendons, your muscles are going to pop. I mean, like when you actually do physical things, you have cosmetic muscles that are not functional muscles. That happens with Brian Cage. It happens with Wardlow. And they're like, well, I'm so cosmetically big, I should be able to do anything. It's like, no, you're actually more vulnerable to injuries if you're pushing your body in that way where it's just about cosmetics. And so, and that's one of the things I didn't like about Anthony Bowens. He got needlessly muscular. It made him look shorter and stiffer. And he was like the super smooth athlete who could have been the next Bryan Danielson. And he decided he just wanted to be the most muscular he could be and hang out with Billy Gunn and look short next to him. And I don't know. It's just like every wrestler there either made a bad decision or had bad decisions made for them or were exposed as not being ready. And I don't know that we're going to look at Wardlow as like a big what if. I think we kind of know. He was injury prone. He wasn't that good on the mic. He wasn't the next Batista. I don't know. I mean, I'm ready to make that call. Rude Dog, you can follow up on that or bring up something else. Joshua, sometimes I mute you when I'm talking just because I'm hearing the dog in the back. I think the dog in the background. And then you can well, that explains it. Yeah. So just when you talk, just unmute, and when you are not talking, just mute again. Then we won't get as much rustling in the background. Rude Dog, what's up with you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they dropped the ball with Hook, but not sure where they could have made it better. And also, like, his random tattoos that keep coming up, like, are nonsensical and just like look weird. And it's just like, okay, like it's almost getting to the point where it's like, all right, let's move on from this guy, which is sad because he had a lot of potential. But anyways,
by the way, this is a class, Zach. It's almost like you're a parody account now, Zach. Hook doesn't need to look like Lex Luger, does he? Like that's Zach. We email. He writes for the Torch. I love his contributions, but seriously, you are a parody of yourself right here because you take a reasonable observation, and then that is including me saying other wrestlers are way too muscular, like Wardlow and Anthony Bowens, needlessly too muscular. But there's a happy medium for Hook, and I don't even think if he had other traits, he wouldn't need it. I'm just stating the reality. I'm not advocating for him to roid up and look like Lex Luger. I'm just saying it works against him if he doesn't have something else working for him. Zach says I was literally asking, not trying to be funny. I don't think you're trying to be funny. I think you think you're making a point, but like it's a parody in the sense that of course no one's advocating for him to look like Lex Luger. You are putting an extreme opposite view out there as if that's the only alternative to a binary choice between being a skinny runt or an over-the-top muscular guy. And there's this vast 98% in the middle that we are somewhere in the zone of. So that's, anyway. Am I being hard on him, Joshua, when I say that? Rude Dog says no.
No, Zach brings a lot of this on himself. I love Zach, but he brings on himself at least 80% of the time.
Yes. But every once in a while, there's like this good point. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, in his writing, his future record on PWTorch, I edited, I learned from it. His analysis is spot on. It's actually more objective than he is in the chat. So I don't know. I think someone's impersonating him. Fan Bless says, I totally get Zach now. He's a master troll and he plays it straight faced. He knows what he's doing. LOL. He won't show. He will not admit that if that is his bit. Rude Dog, we're not being too hard on Zach either. You're shaking your head no one asked. So we don't need to make this all about Zach, but yeah.
No. Well, hey, I appreciate Zach. So
yeah,
keep up the good work.
Yeah.
But all right. So I'm gonna say my last point here. So it seems like Bryan Danielson is now the guy that Tony Khan has in his ear. Because he's saying like random stuff like Tony Schiavone that doesn't really like make sense when he used to do it. And Tony, when I talked to him before and he was like, yeah, Tony Khan's in my ear, but I look around for everyone else and no one else is hearing what I'm hearing. And I feel like Bryan Danielson is now the guy that's like saying random like Tony Khan stuff. What do you think about Bryan Danielson maybe being a liaison for Tony Khan, and how do you think about his commentary?
So I'm with Zach, by the way, who says Brian's been way better the last 2 weeks, not competing with Taz for oxygen, and it was was awkward. I mean, it's like basketball game. There's a couple star players, they get all the points, and then one of them gets hurt, and then all of a sudden all these other players step up and they score a lot. Brian was deferential to the guy who was a senior guy in that position, and he should have been. But yeah, he's been better, and it's a two-man booths are better than. And even a three-man booth can work if everybody has a separate role. That has existed. But I think he's been better. I don't think Bryan Danielson is a dumb guy. I think he knows wrestling, but I don't think has a great. I don't think his booking mind fills in the gaps of what AEW needs to grow. I think he is going to reinforce some things that are not particularly important for AEW to recover from some of the downturn or grow. And until proven otherwise, I mean, that's my take on him. And I don't think his commentary is coming across as showing a recognition of what needs to be done to help get some things more over. And yeah, I mean, he can be a great wrestler and a super nice guy and have a good wrestling mind in certain ways, but I don't think he's the answer to AEW's booking shortcomings. But I do think Tony he's a sounding board for him. And I don't think he gives them bad advice. I just don't think he gives them the right kind of advice or has the right ideas or the right philosophy to clean things up and add some stuff that's needed to grow the audience. That's my take at the moment. It's not a final formed opinion, but there's a decent amount of information, and I talk to people. And that's my take on him. Rude Dog's nodding along. What do you think, Joshua?
Yeah, kind of to Rude Dog's point, like Danielson kind of sounds like a Tony Khan mouthpiece because Khan may or may not be feeding him things to say, but like I think Tony Khan and Bryan Danielson are probably pretty similar in their booking philosophies and their philosophies on what wrestling should be, and that is
this would be a good match.
Great matches in the ring, right?
This would be a good match.
I think they're in lockstep on that.
Yeah.
So when Bryan says things, it's almost always going to be in agreement with Tony Khan on purpose or not.
And he's a super fan who Bryan just wanted to have matches, not to help AEW, but because it would be a dream match for him. It's a match he wanted to have, and he thinks the end result, genuinely, will be good for AEW. So it sounds like contradictory, but he didn't think what's good for AEW. He said what's good for me, and then he thought everybody is like him, and they'll like it, so it's good for AEW. And there's somebody in AEW who needs to step back from that, who has some power and influence, and say, we have to stop booking for ourselves and think about what this company needs that when we book for ourselves isn't enough or has some weak points or doesn't put forth a cohesive, coherent, cogent vision of what an alternative to this behemoth competitor in WWE. What can we do to differentiate ourselves? And I mean, left and right. And I point to when the lights went out and came back on, I was like, it was a big eye roll for me. I'm like, oh my God, it was so telling. It was so symptomatic of a mindset, which is we're just going to do all the tropes. I mean, like, we're just going to do all the tropes. We're not going to be new. We're not going to be better. We're not going to be different. We're just going to do all the tropes, but our wrestling is going to be way better. And it's like, that got them only so far, Cool. Rude Dog, anything you want to, any closing comment, or are you good?
I think I'm about good. So thank you much, and have a great rest of your night.
Thanks. Glad you're back calling us. Always good talking with you. Sweet. All right. Joshua, the opening match, Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin against Wheeler, I talked too fast there. Wheeler, Yuta, and Daniel Garcia. Darby and Yuta won. Lots of wild spots, lots of action. What do you think was the main storyline point of the match? Or was it, and sometimes it's okay for a match to just be a match, but what do you think they were going for there?
Yeah, it's not uncommon for an AEW match to be just a match for match's sake. And this was kind of like that. It definitely seemed like that at the beginning, but looking back at the show, you can kind of see that they're actually trying to plant seeds for what's going to be the Blood and Guts challenge that happens midway through the show. Even though the conglomeration of Death Riders have had very little interaction and certainly nothing warranting a blood and guts match. This opening match at least kind of made it almost passable reason for why they might consider something that extreme, even though it's wholly unnecessary.
Yeah, that's yeah. I think I think you astutely answered the question what they're going for. So there's so much of AEW booking that does feel like we thought of it last Thursday, so we're going to put something on Collision to justify doing what we want to do next Wednesday. You know, like Lance Archer, if he's going to be on TV and lose on Dynamite, he gets a win on Collision the previous Saturday. You know, like that kind of thing happens a lot. So, you know, I said, we have this weird singles match with Hook, and it's mystery opponent, and then he beats like Griff Garrison. And it's like suddenly that's supposed to be this like quiet but implied justification for him now being one fluke win away from a pay-per-view main event world title match. It's like, no, that's not enough. You should plan months ahead and plant seeds and all that. And so, yeah, some comments in the chat on Blood and Guts. Derek says, Blood and Guts won't be better than TDR and the Young Bucks versus Omega, Ospreay, Swerve, and Ibushi, and Tanahashi at Forbidden Door in 2025.
No, it won't. And it's way less necessary. And that was an unnecessary match to begin with.
It's it's sort of calendar booking, or we got to check the box of the gimmick match.
It really is, because they announced the Blood and Guts event long before this match. Like, it's been on the books for months.
Yep. And it should feel gimmick matches should be the result of, we need to have this gimmick match in order to solve something. The gimmick itself provides a structure to get to an endpoint, and we lost our way on that, and it just became like the Royal Rumble doesn't need. The Royal Rumble is different because it's a gimmick match that isn't about settling a feud. It's just a once a year match structure that has a novelty. It's kind of a ridiculous way to decide who's going to headline WrestleMania, but it works so well. We all have to look past that. Like, why should drawing a lucky number and not getting thrown over the top rope mean you're the best potentially the best wrestler in the world on the biggest show of the year? There's always going to be some latitude for things that just work really well and people really enjoy. But when they don't work really well and people don't really enjoy them, or they're counterproductive, then we don't give them the latitude, the mulligan, the what's the word? Kevin Sullivan. Anyway, there's another phrase I was trying to think of, but I've got too many thoughts in my head. So, gimmick matches that are about settling a grudge should not be an annual event. It should be something that you pull out when it's called for. That's where Hell in a Cell should not be an annual event. It should be named after, pay-per-view named after it. Elimination Chamber I'm more okay with, because that actually, it's kind of a hybrid, but it's mostly there to determine a challenger. It's not, we're going to settle a feud. Blood and Guts it's to settle a feud. Just don't do it at any particular time of the year. It should be when a feud gets so intense that fans are calling for it, chanting for it, and it's clearly the way to go.
Yeah, in general, calendar booking for stipulation matches is just a bad idea all around, and both companies have a tendency to do that. And then Blood and Guts, like you're saying, not only is that it's like the ultimate supposed ending to a feud, and this is a feud that started tonight. Mm-hmm. It's just antithetical to the entire concept of it. And I think they were fine. I think it also kind of undercuts the fact that they had set up a women's Blood and Guts before this.
Yep.
It seems like they're really just kind of tacking it on because, well, we'll already have the 2 rings in the cage there. We might as well do a men's one. Let's find some people to throw in that.
Yeah. There's a men's and women's rumble. There's a men and women's rumble, so we got to do men's and women. Yeah. Zach Barber says adding a men's Blood and Guts match was unnecessary. The women's Blood and Guts was enough and actually justified. A couple minutes ago, Zach said, wrestling fans who are booking a wrestling show for other wrestling fans need to stop booking for wrestling fans. Do I have that right? I'm confused. LOL. To which Fan Blast says, Zach, we're on to you, buddy. And I'm wondering if we've been like just conned by Zach this whole time. I think I was biking around Minneapolis Lake, and there was a guy there set up for advocating that Earth is flat. He had a whole table set up with all this evidence. He said, "Ask me anything. I've got an answer for everything." And he was filming, like he was either live streaming or filming it, like for some reason. It was like our interactions with him were filmed, and I just kind of watched. I was bemused, by this, and I was like, he's actually not serious. I think he just wanted to cosplay someone who is serious to see how people would respond. Like, I thought, my hunch is he was like a graduate student in the university in the art of persuasion or something, and he wanted to see, can I take a point of view that I know is absurd, but advocate for it with argument and see if I can convince people or have people think something completely ludicrous is reasonable if I deliver the message in a certain way. And it's like, well, that's actually kind of a fun intellectual exercise. I didn't like begrudge him it. Just, he's cosplaying a flat earther. And I think, is Zach doing that? Is he cosplaying a contrarian who makes these straw man arguments? And it's taken us years to figure it out?
I think that would be less depressing than the truth that Zach just loves AEW so much that he sees it for what he wants it to be, what we all want it to be instead of what it actually is.
Yeah.
I wish that were the case. I think he is 100% genuine in his feelings.
Zach says he is too, but who can believe him? He says, I'm not that guy, LOL. Well, that's what the flat earth guy would say.
Though.
Exactly. Derek says all the flat earthers have the same talking points that is rehearsed and repeated with each other. It's so weird, but I don't know. I mean, but Joe Rogan will have someone on for 2 hours and he won't make a logical counterpoint, he'll just listen to people talk nonsense and say, I'm just here to ask questions. And it's like, well, at some point you kind of might not want to provide a platform. Yeah. Like sometimes people just disqualify themselves from being taken seriously and deserving that platform. And it's counterproductive, but anyway, the John Moxley story. Let's just touch on this. With the Kyle O'Reilly, we didn't get, we got a double count on 11 minutes. They told more of a story last week with him wanting to avoid submissions. They really underlined that this week. What do you think about the story they're telling with him and the idea of doing the rematch with O'Reilly, but doing the double count out as a way to avoid a finish again, more of a pin submission finish?
Yeah. So in theory, I appreciate that they're trying to tell a somewhat nuanced story, mostly in the ring over the course of a couple weeks. I like that in theory. That's a good idea. They should do that a lot. This is not that story, though. This is more like the story where Kyle O'Reilly is always pushing main eventers to their limit, even though he's never been portrayed as anything other than a second-tier loser in a joke group the entire time he's been in AEW. And so you got the bad finish last week to lead to this match this week with another bad finish. It's like they're taking the complete wrong lesson from the things that drive me crazy about like a Monday Night Raw. Like, yeah, let's do that. That's working out really well. And so are we getting a third Kyle O'Reilly, John Moxley match, or is the blood and guts going to be the end of it? Like I said, I like the idea of this telling the story that Moxley's kind of shook from his loss and that he's kind of losing his grip on things and maybe possibly causing some issues within his group. And that's a good story, but they're not actually telling that. They're just kind of having Moxley struggle beating a known loser in the ring, which
it is that is at least concurrent with the story that they're telling. I don't mind what my objection to a non-clean pinfall, non-clean submission finish. My objection to it is when it feels like it's a cop-out because they want to get the benefit of presenting the match, but they don't want to own an outcome. And so people get invested in it, and then they don't get a finish. And not only is it a letdown, I think it's just bad business because then people start disinvesting from matches that are compelling. So if every time you have a compelling match, you're like, I can't imagine who's going to win this game. If you got, the World Series, if just like, I can't imagine who's going to win between these two teams. And then you just book non-finishes, like people are going to not care about the World Series anymore after a while. But at least, a team doesn't have to suffer the humiliation of being eliminated. Well, sure. But the point is to find out who's better. And it's okay to lose. You just, you should try hard not to. I don't mind a finish in a match where people don't. I don't mind the DQ finish last week really much at all because Moxley would. I mean, the issue is should Moxley be should O'Reilly be that competitive against Moxley at Moxley's level? I get that as a baseline. That's AEW. It's common. This isn't an outlier. They do that all the time. I mean, going back to Cody Rhodes. Why is Cody Rhodes taking 16 minutes to beat QT Marshall? Like, come on. We don't need to fill TV time that badly. Multiple examples of that early on and ever since. So it's part of Tony Khan's booking because he says, hey, we want good wrestling before we do the obvious finish. And I got to fill TV time. Okay. I don't like it. I don't think it's great. It's not offensive. It's just, I don't think it's great. But it's sort of the idea. I think the baseline, the underlying assumption is all these wrestlers are pretty close to each other, and it always comes down to a last-second shot at crunch time. Like, that's his booking philosophy. Even someone who has a losing record, they can be competitive for 10, 12 minutes, we're all about equal then, and it's the better wrestlers really rise to the occasion once it gets past that point. I think he's consistent enough with that. I don't like it. I don't endorse it, but it's not egregious to me. Like, oh my God, it's awful. I don't want to do it. Okay. So with that stipulated too, Moxley does not want to give up. He'd rather get DQ'd than tap out because he's spooked. And I don't think people are like, oh, we didn't get to find out if Kyle O'Reilly can beat Moxley, because nobody thinks Kyle O'Reilly can beat Moxley. So this was more Moxley didn't even want to be at risk of being knocked out or passing out, or he's like, I'm so spooked by being a submission, I'm just going to hit the ref to get out of this match. That is actually part of a storyline. It's not a cop-out. Could you conjure up a better finish that doesn't follow a trope that's frustrated people for years? Of course, it's a danger zone when you do it. But this is actually the rare exception that I'd be in favor of if they eliminated all the others. Does that make? I mean, this would be this is the time to do a non-finish. Yeah.
Right. Like if you stipulate to that, if there is a good time to do a non-finish in service of a larger storyline, yeah, that's the time to do it.
Yeah.
I think my issue is more along the lines of I don't want to see another Moxley Kyle O'Reilly match because I didn't want to see the first one. Like I said, I appreciate the story they're telling, and I even like the way they're doing it in general. I just don't think maybe Kyle O'Reilly's the guy to be doing it.
Yep.
Or twice, or possible third time.
Yeah, and I wasn't. You're here, but I wasn't so much rebutting your point as rebutting kind of the larger backlash to the finish last week. In that, I actually think it's a good example of when to do when you can defend doing a non-finish. The problem is it carries the baggage with it of all the other non-finishes. And then a separate point is, why is Moxley taking this long against O'Reilly? And I can make a case for, well, it's why it sort of does make sense in canon of how AEW presents wrestlers. But then you can also make the argument, you want matches people want to see with a backstory and, some stakes that are there. And you don't think O'Reilly is that guy. And I get that. They kind of got away with Mark Briscoe being at MJS level, but I don't think people buy Kyle O'Reilly in a sitcom music on a couch with his cartoon buddies, then coming to the ring, and we're supposed to take him seriously as a, whatever. So there's a lot. Yeah. The context counts to all of this. It colors your reaction to things.
It does. And my reaction is, like I said, overly negative, even though I like the story and I want to give them credit for telling a story on TV through a match. It's a great idea. I just think there are better people to do it with and better ways to do it. Yeah.
So Derek Mitchell backs up your point. I don't care that Kyle O'Reilly is a technical wizard facing Mox multiple weeks. Chad Gable was in a mid-card faction, Alpha Academy. You'd never see him wrestle Roman Reigns for 15 minutes. Yep. All right. We had the big Don Callis family meeting. You can blame me. I have advocated for years the Don Callis family should appear on TV together more often. It should feel like a coherent faction. And we should get to know how they interact with each other and how. I mean, we got all that tonight. We got a good dose of that tonight. I'm for that. I liked. They're self-aware. That they're the biggest faction. Rocky Romero says we are the largest and most dominant faction in pro wrestling. I love that they're kind of leading into the silliness of how true. Yes, but it's also believable that Rocky would say that on behalf of his faction, even if it's objectively hard to make the case. We could have led with this. I mean, honestly, we could have said, hey, this was Okada and Takeshita is a big feud. Okada is like. So the joy of performance of him being a heel. I mean, he loves being a heel, and that handshake turned into a middle finger, and then he is so delighted with himself. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to see. It's clouded by you want Okada to be a more serious main event money draw, but if you set that sacrifice aside, man, is it fun to watch him be a heel. It's a big ask. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, no, I thought that segment may have been the highlight of the entire night, given some of the quality of things we discussed already.
Yep.
And like you can see as soon as Takeshita stuck his hand out, you're like, well, you know how this is going to go. Okada is definitely going to give him the finger, but he just did it with such gusto that I thought it was a great moment. And even as much as I enjoyed it, like you said, Okada enjoyed it much more than anybody else. And he really sold it, and he was so happy with himself. And I think it's great. And like you said, you've been advocating for a Don Callis family segment that kind of explains who they are, what they do. It's almost like they will look back at, like, what are Wade's critiques of our group? Oh, these things. Okay, we need to address these things And I'm not saying it should be a 15-minute in-ring promo every week, but they should have a similar segment like this weekly, like just a 2-minute backstage thing of them discussing what they're doing, what their plans are, and such,
Yeah.
weekly, just kind of keep up and deal with the interpersonal things between everybody.
And firmly establish why we don't like Don Callis. And I mean, his inspirational speech, how does the Don Callis family succeed? We succeed by listening to what I want and listening to what I want. I decide what happens. And then after that speech, he goes, Takeshita, you need to put your ego aside and shake his hand, shake Okada's hand. So he's forcing Takeshita to do something that Takeshita knows Okada will not sincerely do. And then you have this great speech from, was it Fletcher, who was, you need to sacrifice you need to always be there for your, for a fellow family member, even if it puts you at risk. Was that earlier? I'm mixing up which came first. I guess that probably came earlier. But there's like the great, speech about how the honor code of the Callis family. And it's like, it's clearly not, doesn't apply to everybody. It just applies to people who are there to do things that are hurt themselves for the people who are higher up in the chain. So they came across as really sleazy and then Don Callis, everything. I mean, it's just like, now you these are heels and you want to boom and you want to see them lose. In addition, so it helped establish, who they are and the chemistry within the group. And Fletcher was, got to shine a little bit too, especially when he's holding and lecturing Takeshita on how not to overreact to Okada giving the middle finger too. He's so emphatic about that.
Yeah, it was, as we begged for, character development in the group. And because it's been a big group, but it's always been mostly anonymous people that from losing matches normally. So it's just, even Rocky Romero, who doesn't need to be in the group or in the company or on TV, is adding something like his cadence and everything, very much a heel. And next time he's in a match, I think people are more likely to want to see him get, beat mercifully and, possibly bleed and so forth. I mean, not Wheeler Yuta levels, but you still want to see him get smacked down.
Yes. And Danielson's reaction on commentary, it's like, Seinfeld, Newman. It's like with Danielson and Yuta and playing that up is fun too. Is anything you would have excluded from that segment, or anything you want to see in the future, since we're talking about it with this type of dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I liked most of everything. I actually kind of would like to see maybe the conversation spread out more. It seems like Fletcher again, Fletcher should be talking more than everybody else. He's more important than everybody else. But I would like to hear from Lance Archer, even though I feel like he has very little to say. It did seem kind of, maybe it's because they had the full energy. I think they could have come back from commercial with like everybody already sitting there. Maybe would have been better, but just kind of tighten it up in spots. But in general, I think, like I say, more of this would be better.
Yeah.
More from everybody.
Yep. I agree. So yeah, and this actually promoted Collision too. I mean, for better or for worse. They're not consistent with it, but by the way, come to our YouTube post show for wrestling analysis, but stay around to see the cat and the dog interact behind Joshua. They're adorable.
They don't like each other. I don't know what's happening behind me.
That's great. Okay. Chris Statlander, I alluded to it earlier. Like, I am not rooting against her. I am like a parent at a spelling bee. Like, don't misspell a word. Like, like whatever, whatever. A parent in a crowd watching a kid scared. Like, you're watching her and you're like, don't do that weird spin around thing. Don't, like, in the acting was so, like, there's so many things wrong with it. Like, she ended the interview so suddenly. And it's like, the interview's over, she's walking away. It's like, no, you're not. We know. But Renee acted like it was over. So she really quickly goes into like, well, there you have, the whole cliche interview. Well, there you have it, fans. We've heard from Chris Statlander. It's like, nothing felt genuine. It felt like just a bad cartoonish caricature of a wrestling promo. But I like her gimmick as an alien. I think she should go back to it, because I think that's the one thing she's kind of, that her, like, it's just her. I'm not trying to be mean, but like she's on national TV. She expects people to watch her and pay for her. She's earning money for it. I'm going to critique her. There's nothing authentic and that feels real about her promos, but she's trying to do things that are so unnatural. It's like, why do you keep doing things that you're just almost as bad as anybody in wrestling right now at doing? And she keeps doing it. She has to not be that awkward in real life, right?
Right, that's the thought I had. Like, somebody needs to like film her talking to a regular human being so she understands like what it looks like and what it sounds like, how how things are patterned out, what words you choose, the inflection, how normal people talk to other people, even in a pompous interview segment, something like that. It's a little elevated, sure, but you still have to sound like what a human sounds like when you're talking. And yeah, she is just so off-putting, and it is bad because I'm actually like a parent. Like, I'm rooting for her. I want her to do well, but like I don't know if you would want to put somebody that is just that awkward on the microphone. I don't know if you want to give them your championship and then put them on the microphone.
Yeah, I mean, she's had worse, but like, and Zach's like, well, she was better than she was last week. Well, we're grading on a curve, but this was really, really weird. And like, it's like if you didn't have rhythm, but you watched other people dance, and then you went on the dance floor, and you're like, well, when the beat of the music is like this, I'm supposed to make this movement. But you're just like it's like this uncanny valley, like you're just a half a second off, and everything is overthought. Like this is a time when I'm going to spin around, and like, why are you spinning around? That's weird. Nobody would do that. And well, it's because I'm trying to get this effect, right? But when people do, like, I don't know.
Right, she may or may not be a weirdo in real life. She probably is, but I assume she can hold a normal conversation and not do things that are awkward out of the ordinary. And we also had a discussion going on the Discord. Like, we could not figure out what she was wearing, whether or not this was Halloween related, like that was a costume, or if that's just how she dresses, because she is so awkward and weird in every other way. I assume that's just how she dressed. Eventually, we determined she was something for Halloween, but we don't know what.
I was thinking that I don't remember all the specifics, but there were times like, is this a Halloween outfit? Or like Megan Bain, like, did she dress up for Halloween, or is this her regular gimmick outfit? Like, an average viewer would be like, is this what she normally is like? Or I mean, it is pro wrestling. That's going to actually happen. Some regular outfits are going to look like Halloween costumes.
That's true.
Yeah. Joshua, anything else?
I mean, I know other stuff happened on the show. Nothing really super stand out. I mean, we had the start of the women's tag team title thing, which I thought I was a big proponent. Not generally adding titles to AEW, but if you're going to add one women's tag team, I think is maybe the best case scenario. You get more women on the show, you get tag teams, so you can kind of like hide somebody who's greener and kind of get more people in the show, get more people work, and get more people better at what they do. That's really just a general thought on women's tag team titles. The match tonight was fine. It was good. I actually kind of like Hayter and Aminata as a team, but I do appreciate one of the few original women's tag teams moving forward in the thing.
JB from Detroit emailed because I some of the points we covered so much, I'm not going to read his comments unless there's something he's really adding to what we said. But he goes, I really enjoy the Callis family when they're doing events like dinners and summits, things like that actually define the members of the group and their personalities. I'd love to see a Joe Lashley singles match down the road, and I'd like to see Lashley be built up for a big TV, a big TV title feud at some point. I don't know if he actually means TV title, but build up a feud on TV for the title. Anyway, I'd also like to revisit Hook and Joe before Joe hangs it up. Perhaps Joe putting Hook over on his way out. Moxley put over Megan Bain huge with just a few words tonight. I'm very interested in the Bain Death Riders dynamic. It gives Bain a chance to show the crowd more of who she is. She's a much better fit with the Death Riders than Stat, in my opinion. Will Darby continue to use the Scorpion Deathlock? What do you think about that, Joshua? I'm okay with it.
I think that's interesting because you may recall from the roundtable, I thought the ending of their I Quit match fell a little bit flat because like Darby never used Scorpion Deathlock. But if he's going to continue using it, I think it kind of recontextualizes that and makes me maybe appreciate that ending more. And I think it makes sense for Darby to have like a submission finisher like that, particularly taken from an icon who was also his mentor. Mm-hmm. So if he continues using it, I actually think that'll be a plus for him in the long run.
Says Mox being a coward is a very interesting twist that I hadn't expected. I feel like this character change is what will ultimately lead to the death of the Death Riders. Where do you think this is heading?
Well, I originally I assumed that Moxley was kind of on his way out as soon as he lost to Darby, but they're kind of telling this extended confidence shaken storyline, which again I think is interesting. It almost kind of has to end with him, the Death Riders, getting rid of him. Because like, what kind of leader can he be if he can't beat Kyle O'Reilly?
Yeah. Yes. Yep. Finally, JB just says, I think the Hangman's disguise reveal was way better than any actual reveal that I thought they might do. You know, that's what's kind of a shame too, is like there was an idea here. You know, I mean, there was a kind of, Hangman kind of mouthing Shivani's words, and kind of you didn't expect Hangman to show up as Shivani, but it was so ham-fisted. It's like, Joe, well, now we know Hangman isn't doing anything because he's not in this outfit that I just ripped the head off of, so therefore I must be safe. And it's like, like you want your heels to be somewhat street smart. You want Joe to be street smart. Like maybe Grayson Waller doesn't need to be street smart, or whatever. I mean, but like you want Joe to be more street smart than that. And it like so much was sacrificed in the pursuit of just the Bischoff old man reveal thing. But there was something there that had there not been all the negatives, like including like, does Hangman really need to go to this much trouble? He's your world champion. I think he should. It's like, he's not Bischoff. It's like, it's your world champion. And he's going to elaborately dress up like Tony Schiavone in cahoots with a guy who's supposed to be objective in Tony Schiavone to just get a couple shots in at Joe when there's so many other ways wrestlers get shots in on wrestlers. It just that, the old Austin Powers thing, this overly needlessly complex way to kill your nemesis. It's like, just off him. Why does it have to be so complicated? So anyway, we've gone full circle.
No. Again, there was a germ of an idea that could have worked in there.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
But we will never forget Hangman Page dressed up like Tony Schiavone, who's dressed up for Halloween.
Yeah, well, in that way, I guess it's a success. It was a moment that happened that will live on in infamy, I guess.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anything else you want to add? Otherwise, we can just wrap up here.
I think we beat it pretty good.
All right, yeah. It's fun. I mean, it's fun to belabor points that are as ridiculous and like weird as AEW was tonight. Technical problems aside, PWTorch VIP membership is available, 7-day free trial to get all our VIP shows unlocked. Go to Patreon and search PWTorch VIP. Go to Spotify and search PWTorch VIP, and you can unlock the 7-day free trial of our podcast, including commercial-free versions of our free shows, or get a full VIP membership, full archives dating back nearly 4 decades. Nearly 2,000 back issues since the late 1980s, pre-internet era coverage, just like we do here, but pre-internet versions of our reporting, our editorials, our interviews, our match reports, star ratings, plus an ad-free website, and also I've been doing extra VIP news updates lately, and some great VIP exclusive content, all compatible with Apple Podcasts, customizable feeds. Go check it out. We'd love to have you as a member. And finally, just if nothing else, please like this show and subscribe to our show on YouTube. And if you're listening to us on the podcast audio side of things, please give us a 5-star rating. And just in social media and stuff, spread the word. Let people know we're here. And if you like the show and you think they might like it, let them know. Thanks, everybody. And if you haven't yet, check out the flagship edition of the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling podcast that dropped yesterday with Jason Powell from ProWrestling.net. And that is available audio only. So search Wade Keller in your podcast app and subscribe to that. Covered a wide array of topics, and it's always a fun time with Jason. Again, Wade Keller is the search term, and subscribe. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.